Hey everybody, and welcome back to my PortSwigger Web Academy series. If you haven't heard about them, PortSwigger is the creative of Burp Suite, a free security testing tool that researchers, testers, cybersecurity professionals, and companies alike use to assess their security of their web applications. PortSwigger released their Web Academy back in like 2019 or so, and now noobs and pros alike can pretty much try their hand at exploiting OWASP's top 10 vulnerabilities, business logic, API problems or vulnerabilities, and much more while familiarizing themselves with PortSwigger's Burp tool. So, quick disclaimer here, this is not a paid advertisement, nor am I sponsored in any capacity. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm just a cybersecurity professional looking to help others gain competency while just learning. Really, and using the tool and getting better at their craft. So we're currently building on directory traversal in this playlist, but I have a couple of others that I'm working through. So if you ever get stuck with this Web Academy, feel free to just reference those. I give explanations and walk through the solution. So hopefully it will give you the clarity that you need. And if not, feel free to drop a comment in the box below asking questions, and I'll do my best to answer. So without further ado, let's jump to it. So in the last video, we just did a simple directory traversal to get the Etsy password file using //// or how many / that are Etsy password. Now this next lab suggests that the developers anticipated attackers would try to use the sequence and blocked it, which makes this a bit of a twofold problem. So I'm gonna read what it says. This lab contains a file path traversal vulnerability and the display of product images in the same place that we were before. So when we get there, I'll show it. The application blocks traversal sequences, but treats the supplied file name as being relative to a default working directory. To solve the lab, retrieve the contents of the Etsy password file. So we're still using the product images for the vulnerability. Difference here is that the sequence being supplied, usually what we did last time, which was / Etsy password, that is being blocked. And I'll show that here. But the developers are still using relative paths instead of absolute ones, which is ideal. And since this is still a problem, on top of, again, user input being trusted, we have some file issues. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. And it's gonna take a second to load, so give me this. Okay, cool. So if you've seen the previous video, then you would know these are some weird images. First off, that's not what you'll know, but these are weird images. Like what is this? Anyway, you would be familiar with looking around the website, all that jazz, diving into the product itself, and then going to the product image, right click and open image, a new tab. Same thing we saw last time. So I'm gonna pull this up, and I'm gonna also pull up my other burp stuff. And I have a lot of history in here because I'm trying to do all these at the same time. But let us remove everything and delete everything so that we're kind of starting new. So I'm going to refresh this and refresh this image. Okay, cool. So now we're in. Let's get this off and open this again. That may or may not matter. and see what I can do. So, first off, I'm going to go here, back to the images, and I'm going to do what we did last time, which was // Etsy password. I believe that's what it is. And I'm going to hit enter, and it says no such file. So we didn't get that last time. Now this is what they're saying when they're saying the sequence is being blocked by the developers, because they're essentially not allowing this to go down, like this sequence here, that .. That is basically indication that you're pretty much trying to traverse through files. If you ever used Linux or something like that, like, or even Windows to some degree, but I'm not a Windows person, so I primarily just traverse through files on my file explorer on my via the terminal on my desktop. So what I tend to do is, if I'm trying to go from one file to another or go back some, I would use .. or to some degree like cd .. or something like that. And this is similar to that. So that's a common sequence. So since that's a common sequence and it's a well-known attack, a lot of developers tend to try to negate this. And in this case, they're just like, oh, we know that sequence, we're not going to allow you to do that. So no. We're going to instead give you this error message that says there's no such file, to give you the illusion of your attack doesn't work. But that's not the case here, and we're going to show how that is. And again, like I said, I don't like to usually, be a stickler. I kind of am though. If you go back to, as I referenced before, PortSwigger does a great job of giving you a lot of information via the pre-lab material, because it literally gives you the answer, at least from apprentice to certain parts of practitioner, depending on the learning path that you're on. So we're going to go back to the pre-lab material, and here we are going to the second this is the second lab, and they have an excerpt right, like with a little paragraph right before the second lab. And it says many applications that place user input into file paths implement some kind of defense against path traversal attacks, and these can be circumvented. If an application strips or blocks directory traversal sequences from the user's supplied file name, then it might be possible to bypass the defense using a variety of techniques. You might be able to use an absolute path from the file system root, such as file name equals Etsy password, to directly reference a file without using any traversal sequences. So in this case, they're using an absolute path. I said they're using relative, but they're using an absolute path. So in this case, we're able to just go directly to the file and just not even have to traverse to it. We could just go directly to it. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to, instead of just, because they're blocking this sequence here, so let's not even worry about going there. Let's just literally go to Etsy /password. And this time I'm going to change some things, which I should have did before. But I'm going to go to options, and I'm going to intercept the requests, responses. And I'm going to do this, proxy. That was horrible. Completely horrible. But I couldn't catch the the pause button in time. So y'all just going to have to deal with that. All right, we're going to press enter. And we are able to see this. And we captured the request. We're going to forward the request, keep forwarding requests. Did it get stuck? It did. It's okay, because there's nothing there. So, but the lab is solved. And remember, a lot of the time this directory traversal will have to go to the response. So I showed you one way to go through it in the last video, which was send it to a repeater, and that's like the easiest thing. I did not do that, but I can show you how to find the other way. So you would go to proxy, and then right beside intercept there's HTTP request. Filter downward, because that's going to give you the most recent request you sent. Excuse me. And here, this was actually the request we sent. File etc password. See the other one that I did before. And this is the request, and this is the response. So when we went directly to the file, we were able to get the contents of it. And again, this is all because those mechanisms are not in place. ACLs, or access control lists, and root directory need to be in place at minimum, so that the user is not able to just escape out of one directory into another. So that's pretty much it for this lab, and I'll see you in the next video.